All right, welcome back to the podcast. What's best for the patient is best for business. And Lord knows if you don't have providers to help people in your community, then there are no patients and is no business to be done. And that's why Mr. John Lee is on the call today. How are you, John?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So all I'm going to say is Pickle, and we're going to let John then, I want John to introduce himself, and we're going to John was at PPS. There's definitely anybody I talked to over the next 2 months who was at PPS, because I've done multiple, and I really want to hear everybody's takeaway on that. So John, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe tell people what you're doing. Let's go into a little PPS recap and go from there.
Absolutely. So I'm John. I'm the co-founder of Pickle, and my team and I built a workforce intelligence platform that helps PT companies source from the full clinical talent pool and also make better strategic planning decisions for growth. Basically, we aggregate and analyze millions of data points about the clinical workforce so our clients can better understand the talent landscape and build their teams more strategically while they're doing it. I'm a PT by trade. I also got my MBA from the University of Oxford overseas.
Awesome. Sorry, I take myself off mute. I like to mute myself when people are talking so I don't talk over. I'll talk over you anyway, but I try not to. So this is cool. So I really like how you just introduced the product, by the way, dude, and the platform. So let's go first. We'll sit on that just for a second, because based on what you just said and sourcing people and helping, I love it, higher up, dude. Now, I'm all about going upstream. The solutions are upstream, and you're talking about how to help people strategize better about really what are, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm rephrasing here. You're going to help people strategize about who really is a fit for their business, and then you can search for those people who are the best fit and can serve what you need, but will also in turn serve them, because you're aligning culture and people, business and people. Would that be correct, John?
Absolutely. I think even simpler than that, the way to think about it is the question that we solve is if you knew nearly everything about every candidate in your zip code, how would that change the way that
Yeah.
you have your team see more patients and impact more people? And this has a variety of use
Okay.
cases, right? So even beyond just
Yeah.
recruiting, I mean, de novo versus acquisition planning is another one, right? How do we get into the deserts to see more patients?
Right. Yeah, this is good stuff, man. There's a lot of directions to go here. Let's double back to PPS. So PPS, it's 1 week roughly since PPS started, I think, roughly. No, give or take. No, since it ended. Oh my God. So we're already more than a week out, and we ran into each other on multiple occasions going the opposite directions. So tell me about your takeaways from PPS 2025 this year.
Absolutely. I actually had one big takeaway I was thinking, as well as a question that led out of it. And my biggest takeaway was that there was AI stickers on everything, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Every
Yeah.
product, every pitch, even like the stickers that people would give out, it was on everything. And
Yeah.
for Pickle, I like to think of us more as a data engineering company than an AI company, because AI is really about repeatable use of workflows and decisions based on good data, right? And in healthcare, we have so much data, but it's not necessarily uniform or clean. And so I'm wondering about
Correct.
all these AI influences, what is the source data they're using to help support our clinical practices and our clinical decision makers?
You're not only here. So this is a question that sounds like a statement. You're not only worried about what data are they using, yet are you also, well, because you want data so that you can build a story around certain things. So yeah, okay. So yeah, it's more of a clarifying, because you want to know where the data is coming from, because you want to then be able to use it for good to help serve in the manner of the business that you're running. Correct? Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And not even beyond that, the context of your business, right? Even generally
Yeah,
speaking, you think of
100%, dude.
tools like,
100%.
if you think about OpenAI or Claude or any of these other companies, they're run on generalist data sets, right? But healthcare has a lot of
Yeah.
specific terms and items like board specialization or practice setting, right? That is not necessarily in the context of generalist tools. So if our tools are built on these generalist like wrappers, basically, there's a lot of room for
Yep.
improvement for our specific use case in healthcare where the stakes are so high.
Yep. Yep. Man, I just guess what the call was this morning. It was with CJ Morrow, all about AI and the data in and right our role, even our role in what we put into these systems. Because I'm going to argue that I might be off on a tangent a little bit here, John, but in our role of putting information into the system, we're playing a role of architect here. We're building out the data for this, right? Where is the data? How clean is it? How much is there? Well, in the areas there's not a lot of data, if we just look at PT and healthcare and stuff like that, then we could be actually helping to form the architecture of how AI is making decisions for the next person that shows up. That might not be where we were going, but that's kind of where my brain was going after all this. So yeah, AI tags on everything, man. And then are you fine? So tell me about your client. So we've had this discussion a little bit, but I want to bring some, again, this will help me to understand. What solutions, John, are your, or no, no. What problems, why are people contacting you? Is it just straight up, I need help with recruiting? Are they looking deeper like you're talking? What problems are they presenting to with you?
Absolutely. And so I can actually give you the big problems that make most people reach out
Go
to us
for it.
about this
Go,
question,
go, go,
right?
go.
That, that we propose this
Yeah,
question of if you knew nearly everything about every clinical provider around you, how would that change your operations or growth strategy, right? But we're in this period right now where everyone's talking about the healthcare workforce crisis and the shortage. And there's not a lot of
right.
conversation about how inefficient it is, right? For example,
Yep,
in
yep.
healthcare right now, the average time to fill is 6 to 9 months, right? Think about that for a second. And not only that, beyond actually getting someone to either apply to your LinkedIn post, the noise, or reach out to your clinic or get hired, then you have credentialing on the backside. And so what happens when we have all those data processes that can't be automated? Ultimately, what happens is time to first patient is drastically lengthened, right?
Oh, that's
That's millions
interesting
of
data. That's
dollars
an
on
interesting stat, dude. Yeah. That's an
that's
interesting
millions of
stat.
dollars,
I'm the
right? On,
first
on
patient. Yeah.
right. And it's even crazier, right?
Hmm.
Because even beyond that, workforce planning is really, really important, right? Because in healthcare, it's hard to grow if we can't bill and we can't provide services, right?
Right.
And if
Right.
you think about it,
100%.
that time to get credentialed by insurance companies where we're having our providers do under licensed work instead of top of licensed work, that is a data-based problem as well, right? Which means that
Yep.
even if you
Yep.
can land somebody, you still can't generate the revenue to support your operations or your
Yep.
growth, or even to provide a better environment for your employees, right? And so when I'm really passionate about the workforce crisis, right? I don't like calling it a shortage because I think it's a shortage plus an inefficiency. And until we tackle
I
both, we
agree.
won't really know what one is, how and one impacts the other.
So tell me here, let's get in the weeds a little bit. So how, and right, we're talking high level, we're talking the big question. So when someone comes to you and it doesn't matter, drop a pin anywhere and they say, I need help from you, John, how are you, let's just think about the first steps. I mean, how are you going to help them? Because I know they're going to look at the bigger picture, but bear with me on this. We're an interesting breed. If you sell me a future that's a gazillion dollars, if you don't tell me how I can make $1 off of it tomorrow, I'm probably going to fucking blow you off. And I've had this happen, right? So we've got to, so based on all that, tell me how you're bringing your clients on and what the work looks like early on in their journey with you.
Absolutely. So I would call that step one. There's actually like a step zero,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
healthcare coming
I
out of
love
this
it.
post-COVID phase, right? Like we all lived through it. I mean, external recruiting fees and travel staffing fees during COVID were exorbitant, which they had to be because we needed more help, we needed
Right.
more care, we need to find a way to even get short-term staff, right? But post 2023, we're seeing this two transitions happening right now. Number one, especially in PT with healthcare reimbursements going down, we're really trying to cut the fat, right? In terms of what we're spending, we being like a PT organization, right? And the easiest way to do that is to cut that 3x spend for like a travel staffing agency, right? But on top of that, a lot of, especially our larger customers, come to us, and the executives know that they're looking for ways to optimize their processes with artificial intelligence. But you can't really optimize recruiting with artificial intelligence until you have a recruiting team, right? Because there's nothing to optimize if there's nothing there, right? So it's almost like this piecemeal idea of transitioning out of COVID, where we're having this financial pressure and this operational pressure on top of these really challenging financial reimbursement situations, right? So step one is we saw that lots of companies who approached us had taken the approach of splitting up their recruiting teams into sourcing and recruiting teams, right? And they're spending a lot of money on this kind of dual structure. As you dig deeper into it, healthcare is like a human to human profession, right? And recruiting is no different as we're recruiting for healthcare roles. The typical recruiter was spending 20 hours a week just researching and identifying people, trying to answer the question of where are all the candidates, right? Because if you don't even know where they are, they exist, you have no way to even build a relationship with them, right? So step one of that automation pressure or that automation kind of efficiency is all my sourcing people, especially if they're overseas, they're gone, right? Had to use them because they were cheap. They didn't even understand U.S. healthcare. That's gone. But on top of that, it's just allows your smart people, your recruiters who need to grow your org, to spend more time doing that instead of clicking random things in Google or getting stuck looking at the depths of the NPI database or things like that. Those were the two biggest ones that happened very, very quickly.
Interesting. That's great. I love how you have a step zero. I have a step zero in my process. I don't know many people who say they have a step zero. So that's just a little side note. But right, it's the work that needs to be done before we can really do the work. And so rather than go, well, I'm going to call this step one, I'm like, no, this is work you got to do, right? And the way you got to think about it before we ever get together, maybe, right? And that's something I might give to people to do. So, so where are you in this journey, John, of delivering on expectations and delivering on asks and solutions for people?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is in the first 100 days, we were able to identify 220,000 PTs nationwide in 40 states, right? If you think about it that way, I can't think of another company that's been able to identify even part of that population or research them in decades, right? And this is the
Right.
big KPI, so to speak, right? Instead of going, like I know in New York right now, I'm based in New York City, right? If I were to go on LinkedIn and look at physical therapy jobs, first off, the first 8 pages are sponsored ads. Especially if you're a smaller
Right.
practice, how do you afford
Yeah.
that, right? On top
Right.
of that, if we were to look at LinkedIn, there's probably 8 to 9,000 PTs in New York on LinkedIn. We know both from census data and from our own internal data that according to the FSPPT, the state, the board examination arm, right? They have an estimate that there's 25 to 30,000 PTs in New York. Well, if we're paying $2,500 for a seat for LinkedIn Recruiter, and everyone else is, and only a fraction of them are on there, and also the automation has gotten to such a point where people are becoming immune to that kind of sob outreach.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Right? Maybe you
Yeah.
double down on students, right? But then the math for students
Yeah.
doesn't really work either. Because if you have 12,000 students a year, you assume conservatively maybe 2/3 of them want to go into outpatient. And you assume conservatively
Right.
that about 2/3 of them have 2 to 4 offers for graduation. That's another
Yeah.
hard place to go into, right? But again, it all kind of comes
Mm-hmm.
because there's no transparent data source on what our workforce actually looks like.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So you did I don't think we've really touched I think you might have said tell me again. So let's talk about this burnout word. So someone comes to you and go, because I run into this, right? Where do I run into this, John? Is front end, right? Front desk. People come to me, go, I can't keep front desk. I got this churn. I got everything else. And then I start to question, right? Show me the people you have. What are their qualifications? What did you hire them for? Again, I'm not doing the work you're doing by any stretch, yet it's kind of asking that same question is like, you know, well, the churn, nobody wants to do this work. I'm like, time out, right? The right person wants to do this work. So let's talk about this burnout and churn thing a little bit. So again, you gave the bigger picture. So your goal is going to people and saying, look, if we do, and now here comes a question. I had to talk that out a little bit. Here comes a question. Pickle is saying, I love that. Pickle is saying, I don't think I've ever said that. I don't think I've ever started a sentence like that in 58 years of my life, John. Thank you. I get to start with Pickle is saying, and I'm going to say it over and over. Pickle is saying, look, we're going to help you with burnout because we're going to identify the people in your community. I'm going to say community, if you don't mind. We're going to identify the people in your community, and we're going to help you align with the right people who are looking for work like this, or we're going to help you better describe to people that. Tell me that next step. So we're going to help you how with burnout. We're going to help you how with burnout. And I know we said the high level thing, maybe go one level down.
Yeah. So this is actually a very simple question. Across all the research,
Cool.
both in the US and internationally, in healthcare, what's the number one cause of burnout? Understaffing.
Yeah, understaffing. There we go. Okay. I was going to go probably too deep. But yeah, understaffing.
Because the net downstream impacts of understaffing are increased caseload, less work, less rest periods, more stress, more documentation, etc. Right? Then you go to the other side, and then I challenge every single physical therapist to speak to a new grad. I've spoken to over 1,000 in the last year, right? Even
Cool. Oh, this is
even
gonna
new
be
grads, even new grads that have a year of experience, right? We discount them unfairly, right? I understand that maybe they're young in the profession, they have maybe unreasonable expectations based on what we went through, but what they're going through is totally different, right? The way we got the name Pickle was that when we interviewed all of these, quite honestly, the seed of our future, our profession's future, they kept telling us, I wish I could find a way to pick how I grew my career. I wish I could find a way on how I could pick my impact or pick the next step, right?
interesting.
What's happening here is you have this 6 to 9 month time to fill on the company side, right? You have this entire generation of young people who are both jaded with the world because they saw their parents go through 9/11, financial meltdown twice, a whole lifetime of war. And on top of that, we have this gap in medical education where we don't actually do career planning, right? If we think about this critically, there's a huge disconnect to that transaction, right? So what happens?
Yeah.
Not even kidding. And these kids wait so long that they leave the profession and become real estate agents or some other form of labor, right? What's happening here is that knowledge about fit, about salary, about career growth sits with the recruiting team or the owner doing the recruiting, right? But that information gets transmitted to the folks who are doing the work because we have an educational gap where we don't teach them enough about how to do that, right? And so you have this gap that's already creating issues with even just talent sourcing, but then you add on all the other bits, right? The credentialing, blah, 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 which all leaves this idea of I'm sticking longer in this role because I don't know what else to do, right? I would love a savior to come give me an opportunity to grow. I can't tell you how many kids have asked me, how do I open my own practice? And my answer to them is you don't. You buy into an established practice and you start your way that way so you don't bankrupt yourself on top of the 200 grand you just borrowed, right? So on and so forth. And so there's a way to bring them together for this relationship, but it's tied up in HR teams whose budgets are slashed because it's non-revenue generating. And there is the disconnect and the first opportunity we see with actually using healthcare workforce data.
So you're going to help these I like the word kids, and regardless, I say kids, even if it's older than me, because I say kid by how long someone's been in the profession. So we take these kids, and you're saying this clarifying question, John. You're saying that you're going to help them pick because you're going to be on the other side also, making sure that those people know who is looking for the, I'm going to call it solution, the employment opportunity that they present. So you're going to bring those, are you bridging the gap between what people want to pick and making sure they know who offers what they want to pick?
Let me give you an example, right? I think it's the easiest with examples.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
I
Go for it.
I live in New York City. My background
Yeah.
is in sports medicine. I'm fellowship trained, right? I have an OCS, blah, blah, blah. Why am I getting travel, travel PT offers for Idaho?
Yeah. For neuro,
Why?
by the way, right?
Right?
For a
Exactly,
neuro,
right?
right?
So
Gotcha. Yeah. This is getting clear really quick.
the second thing that I think is really, really important that, my team and I try to live by is that we are the experts in data and data engineering. You grew your business, you grew your practice to what it did based off the hard work and sweat on your back. Who am I to come to you and say, you need to do it this way? How
Yeah.
disrespectful
Right.
is that?
Mhm.
Right? I can share information about what other people are doing, but fundamentally, our belief is that the industry of healthcare is full of smart people. If the gap is data and we give you this data, how would that change how you approach the problems that you're facing? Right. But this is not the type of thing where we built an automated email generator that spits out more Gen AI like garbage. Right. That's disrespectful to the hard work you've done to build your practice. What you want foresight, right? You want clarity, transparency on the information around you of a tough situation so that you can adapt because the best businesses adapt. But how do you adapt if there's no information exchange to begin with? And
Yeah.
on the other side,
Perfect.
and then there's on the other side, it's great because now I don't have to receive like random outreaches from travel in Idaho. Like that's a waste of my time.
Yet, if you do receive something, even though you may not be looking, it could be something that makes you pause and go, because now you're going to open these things. Could we agree with that?
Exactly. Because then you get into the next use
Yeah.
case of the data and the next use case, right? If
Right.
we know that the
Yeah.
typical new
Yeah.
grad tends to leave their first job at 9 to 15 months, and they tend to have this set profile, how would that change not only the way you approach that segment of candidates, but how you treated them?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's making sense. I love the way we're bringing this all together. This is not a recruiting company. You don't call yourself, again, are
We
you
built,
gonna if I ask you, yeah, tell me what you call what Pickle does. Give me a, because it can't be long.
yeah,
So what does Pickle
yeah,
do? And I
we are
think
a
you might have
work,
already said this, but I want to revisit it.
Pickle's a workforce intelligence platform that helps healthcare
There you go.
companies
Okay. Okay.
make better decisions,
Okay.
including sourcing and recruiting, right? Because
Okay.
fundamentally, a lot of the problems in healthcare that we can deal with in the private sector, again, separate from reimbursement concerns and things like that, are due to a lack of data and transparency, right? And as a business owner,
Gotcha.
I need data. I need information. My staff relies on me to pay their bills, to feed their families. I need to make the best decision I can for them as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So let's go back to this. I want to double back on it. I love all that. And yeah, I've gotten anybody who's sat through 24 minutes of this, it's all like, wow, this is good. Because I think it's good that I really didn't know. So I had to keep asking these questions, and I'm getting it. So let's go back to PPS. You went through the exhibit hall. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think I ran into you once in there. Yeah. You met with people, potential clients, maybe people who wanted to know what you were doing, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I want to double back to the beginning, not what your takeaway, but the conversations you're having with people, let's start there. The conversations you're having with people, again, they're connecting with you for what Pickle does, or they're hoping you can solve a problem that maybe they haven't well defined. How is that going?
It's going well. Like we support organizations right now that cover almost 1,500 clinics in America, right? And
Yeah,
in that
right. Right.
context, our
Wait a
workforce
minute. Wait a minute.
platform,
You said organizations. Wait, hold on. I want to clarify what you said off the top. Say that again. You what?
we work with
Support?
organizations that cover 1,500 plus locations in America, right?
Cool.
And
Thank
so
you.
we
I missed
get,
that. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. And so we get lots of information and lots of questions, lots of problems, right? What's interesting about PPS is I didn't go as a vendor, right? I didn't have a booth or anything like that. I just like
Right.
going to be part of our
Right.
community.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
first question is always about financials. How is your clinic doing? What are you seeing in the financial world, right?
Yeah.
I think,
Always, dude. Always. 100%.
yeah.
100%.
And I actually had this one really bright clinic owner, ask me a really straightforward question. And the question was, I see all these EMR vendors around right now, which is, it's important, don't get me wrong. But I'm just wondering in my head, if I know I'm going to get a 2 to 3% reduction in Medicare, right, in my reimbursements, but I'm losing 2 to 6% per transaction to deal with this EMR and this add-ons, like, how, what do I do, right? I don't want my staff to see 20 people a day, right? But it's not like I don't have any alternatives for tools, right? And there's this vicious cycle right now. Like there were so many vendors there, but not only vendors, but I thought it was really interesting to see which vendors brought the most people along for the ride because that's all expensive, right? And so, yeah, I think we're kind of walking through the show. There's a lot of cool things going on. Don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering like how hard it is after I lived that life as a PT. I am a PT. I am a licensed PT, right? How do we keep the lights on considering all these 2 and 6% cuts, blah, blah, blah on both sides, right? Top and bottom line.
Yeah. That's all really good. Yeah. And that's right. The, the thing I saw. So was this your first one, John?
My first one. I've never been before. I've been to CSM a couple times, but PPS was
Okay.
definitely a different experience.
Yeah. I'm going to say this is like somewhere between 8 and 10 for me. And you know what I like about that question you got asked, John, where you said, I didn't, you know, in the past where this year was different is people asking that question, how can I keep maintaining this? How can these people help me do this? That was actually the upside of PPS for me. I said where I believe the vibe, I call it the vibe because, right, what was I hearing constantly, no matter where I was? The vibe was not, oh, it sucks. Oh, here we go again. Oh, I'm stuck in this. Hey, nobody's helping me. The vibe was, hey, look, here's the situation. I got to start asking these questions. And I'm like, whoa, those are good questions. Shit. I usually don't hear the people ask those questions here. So back to your point, because here's the other thing. Fuck this, and it's my show, so I can say fuck because this fucking baffles me. And my goal is to have an E on every show, and if I don't say fuck, I don't get the E. And there's like one show out there without it. But we treat people, neurological people, vestibular, postpartum, MSK, and everybody wants to tell you how complex humans are, and then but we don't want to admit to like complexity of moving parts in a system, right? Like hiring, like your very short specific answer to, right? We overcomplicate some things and we fucking oversimplify others, and there's never a middle road, right? Oh, we want to talk all this stuff about burnout or what AI is going to do, but then you're like, no, it's because of shortage, right? It's shortage. People don't, right? We have all these people that want our services. By the way, right? What better, and I'm pretty sure you alluded this, what better way to create burnout than cut reimbursement, tell everybody they have to see more people, and yet you can't hire people to see more people. Wait a minute, right? And that it's that self-fulfilling
Vicious.
prophecy loop, right? And then, yeah, vicious cycle, right? If I call it. Yet we walk around the exhibit hall going, oh, you can help me. But we don't understand how it connects to the real problem, which I want to go back to because I think people asking better questions is getting them. to now really solve the real problem. So that is, I really saw this year as, man, I'm glad to see people leading from, I can't keep doing this way. I have to do it differently, because now they're more open to conversations. Now they're open to, right. It's that thing. You can't have, I tell people, how many front desks, I want to use my world because I think it's the same in many ways as this. How many times can you have a front desk person churn out before it's your fault and not their fault? Mind you, it took me a long time to finally own that. But I'm like, weird, 4 to 5 front desk people have churned out in a row, but you're the only constant. You keep telling me you find the people who don't want to work in your community. I'm like, that's a skill. If you can find the people who don't want to work, quote unquote, then you should be able to find the person to do the work. Maybe you're not finding the right people, right? And so again, just asking. And by the way, I had to go through this whole fucking journey. And this is why I like what you shared, because I really think this is a tipping point in many, many ways for the profession. And if we don't ask the questions that you're answering, John, and have answers to, or better questions to reply with, we are stuck. And you're going to be stuck when you're 30 years out having the same fucking conversation that I'm having with you right now, man, if we don't start looking at these things differently.
Absolutely.
This is, yeah. So there's my little, I had to get on my soapbox a little bit about how it all ties together.
Yeah. The workforce problem is 2 bits, right? It's a shortage plus a leaky bucket, right?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. You're 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And understaffing is the biggest cause of the leaky bucket of the burnout, right? But understaffing is not just the people, it's how long it takes to actually find them, get in front of patients, credentialing, blah, 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 time to first patient, right? I want to share some data with you because we're not at a tipping point. We're at the point of no return. I think I speak to like my friends that are clinic owners and my mentors who have been in the industry for a long time. They're like, oh, this is just a phase. It'll change like it always does. And I was like, I think this one's different. And there's three numbers that kind of alarm me that are everyone should know about that are public. Okay. Number 1, the population birth rate needed to maintain a Western civilization is 2.1 births per woman. Okay. During the baby boomer era, after World War II, it was 3.7. Today, as of the beginning of this year, it's 1.6. What does that mean? That means 2 big things. In 5 years, young people in the workforce will vastly outnumber everyone else. Number 2, the recipients of service, the patients, are going to expand drastically, right? So we're in this age of double bell curve. And the crazy thing about it is not only is all this data released by the census, there are countries in front of us that have already experienced this, like Japan, right? So this idea of having a leaky bucket and a shortage without separating the two, on top of the population changes that we're seeing in the Western world, I mean, this situation is probably not going to change unless we figure a way to think our way out of it and optimize the parts of the problem that could be optimized until you get a regulatory change, which increases birth rate or increases the number of schools or some sort of supply increase, right? But the thing is, the supply increase is a component of it. The attrition is something that we can deal with. I think you're on mute.
That was perfect. You know what I said while I was on mute? Let's just be quiet and let people sit in that. That was epic. I was on mute when I said that and was on mute. So that was good. They had time to sit in that. Yeah. And the last part was, this isn't just going to be a phase, right? Without some big thinking around this.
Yeah.
I think,
I thought this was a US problem, right? But then when I went to school overseas, when I was in England, right, the entire NHS went on strike. Junior doctors, senior doctors, students, everybody. And it brought the whole system to its knees, right? And the thing about that is super scary because it's impact on the community, but it's a microcosm in a smaller population of what's happening here in the US. The difference is we're not fully unionized in the US. I don't want to talk about for or against union. That's a different thing. It's just the fact that because it's centralized for union in the UK, they can do that. But yeah, this kind of like double curve, right, of the young people and then older people needing services is like here to stay, especially now because millennials are having fewer kids too, right? So you're just actually having this kind of like wavelength in population change that's happening. And so it's really interesting to see what happens because the, at least for the rest of my lifetime, my career lifetime, I'm assuming this is how it's going to be, right? So what do? You need to optimize around it because you see what's coming in the environment. It's here already. And the private sector is able to move faster than the public sector to start addressing some of these challenges.
Cool. So, yeah, I got nothing to add to this. This great conversation, I think, is so insightful, John. And again, it's going to add so much value to. I love this. I posted earlier today before I talked to you, and I planned on adding you in later. But I posted, "Wow, my mind's just been blown this week with the 3 interviews I did," and I knew coming into this was just going to be an addition, but I wanted to get the post out early of just bringing people on the show so that I can learn more. I posted, by the way, there's a big secret. I asked people to be on my show so I can learn more, not so they can share with you all, right? It's a great way to go, hey, come on my podcast, and I get free education, free knowledge. So this is such a big part. I don't know. Again, we overcomplicate most things, and then well, no. Let's put it this way. I think we oversimplify things more than anything. Which we could say burnout, where everybody's trying to make it one thing. And yet, if we look at it from from that picture you said, then we can look at the components under it, right? Why understaffing? Well, you just helped us to understand all that, right? Instead of going, oh, it's documentation. Well, that's cool. No, it can't just fucking be documentation. How'd all of us get through it on fucking pen and paper then, it is what it is. So yeah, this is a great conversation. You got anything you want to finish with? You want to add that you were hoping to say?
Love data. I love public data. I think there's so much information out there that cuts that, especially now through the AI generated noise. And I just wanted to leave you with a calculation that my team and I made recently, right? Let's assume, um, that there are 4 million healthcare workers hired every year in the US, right? Rough number. Hired.
Sorry. God
Yep.
bless. Say it again. 4 million healthcare workers hired every year.
Yep. In the US. Let's just make that assumption, right?
Mm.
If it takes us 6 to 9 months to find them and 3 months to credential them, just in the credentialing time, we've lost 1 million top of license FTEs per year.
There you go.
1 million top of license FTEs go unused while we wait for credentialing to get through so we can actually see our patients and get reimbursed for it, right? And that's just the credentialing side. If you think about the number of FTEs that are lost or attrition out because of the 6 to 9 month hiring time in the front, then the number gets crazy, right? And so it's true there's a workforce shortage, but man, 1 million FTEs. Like, think about that for a second. What could you do with 1 million FTEs?
Yeah, that are needed, by the way, right? Right, with all the quote unquote understaffing and everything else, what could you do with 1 million FTEs, right, in the system?
Right. As a nation, a
Fix
million
a lot.
FTEs.
How about fix a
right?
lot?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just empower the people that are doing the work, right? And everyone talks about empowering healthcare workers, and it's so important, right? But there are kind of like constraints to the overall system that prevent us from doing that to the best of our ability, prevents us from growing our businesses, but also, quite frankly, jeopardizes our greatest resource, which is our young people. If they leave, us and our children have no care, right? And so what do we do?
Yeah.
We gotta try something.
Yeah. Woo. All right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks for
I
having me.
love
I've
it,
enjoyed the
man.
conversation.
Hey, I got to tell you what, too. I want to say this out loud because all these conversations I've had, we're going to timestamp this. This is November 2025. And this is interesting because I've had like 3 conversations this week alone where I'm like, we got to revisit this shit in 3 years, 5 years, right? I want to see where this stuff goes. Because these are the conversations we're having. You and I are having. Katie O'Bright and I had. Paul Singh even brought some stuff up. CJ Morrow today with AI and tech and talking about architecting and where this stuff's all going. These are all going to be interesting conversations. Not to see who was right or wrong, but just we're not talking about like adding a cash pay service here. I'm sorry. I'm just going to throw that under the bus, right? Out of context. It's like, no, we're talking way bigger um, problems then, right? If we can't identify the problem, we can't come up with a solution. So that's where we start. What question, right? And I wanted to know, what are people asking you? And this is how we got to, I believe people are starting to ask better questions that say they're open to bigger thinking and better solutions. That's all it's going to lead to. And thank God for Pickle. I want to say Pickle again. Um, but yeah, so thank you, John. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all your insight. And this is great stuff, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I'll look forward to that conversation in 3 to 5 years.